Really? Dipping while skinny? Benedict Bridgerton, I know what you're doing. I could take a shower. Hello, romance girlies. I'm LadyJenevia, and on my channel I talk about entertainment media. Today I am officially unpausing my already ongoing series on An Offer from a Gentleman. Previously we were going through the source material 2 chapters at a time, but as you will have seen me talk about in a semi-recent video about Bridgerton Season 4, the release dates have finally been announced. I have a lot of other video projects I'm working on, including videos for the remainder of 2025, source material videos for films releasing in 2026, and a whole lot of Maxton Hall reviews since I've already watched screeners of Season 2. I'm not putting aside anything. If it's on my to-do list, it's on there. As such, we are going to be consolidating a lot more for the rest of An Offer from a Gentleman. Ultimately, if you would like to know the full details of what's in this book, or any other book for that matter, you should go and read that book for yourself. And I don't say that because I'm trying to convince you to read something that you don't want to read, but the more that I've reflected on the enormous levels of illiteracy in locations that like to call themselves developed, and the more that I myself have gotten back into reading over the last few months, or realistically it's more like the last year or so, and redirected those hours away from big tech, the better I have felt. Thus, I implore you to just read something. It doesn't have to be this book specifically. Right now, outside of this book, I just finished reading The James Connolly Reader.
So I don't know what else to say. Should I sing a rebel song?
And I'm going to be rereading Mary Shelley's Frankenstein before Guillermo del Toro's new film adaptation gets released on Netflix. And I'm also going to read another book that is the source material for a 2026 film adaptation. So just give it a bit of time and you will learn what that is. My patrons already know though. But now, on to the shenanigans. Chapter 8. In case you don't remember, Benedict and Sophie are staying at my cottage. They've just been rained on and they need to start a fire to warm up. See, this is the problem with the ultra-wealthy. You have too much excess living space. If you were to just cram yourself into a very small confined space, well, you'd be scorching hot in no time. Remember that Benedict was just getting over a cold before all of this happened with Sophie, so his coughing is already starting to flare back up again because he experienced exposure to weather. Benedict gets Sophie some men's clothes, since that's all he has access to at the moment, for Sophie to change into, and tells her to choose any of the extra rooms to stay in, despite her repeated suggestion of sleeping in the servants' quarters. She goes and starts the furnace in his room, as if she works there, and he tells her about his glass bowl of rocks, containing various ones that each hold some sort of special meaning to him. He's been collecting these rocks since he was a child. Audience, what do we think? Is the bowl of rocks on the show? Yay or nay? He also mentions the death of his father during this conversation, so already we are getting to know one another. His condition's deteriorating quickly though, because as I said, weather. So Sophie has to help him undress. Oh dear, oh my.
Come in. Take your pants off.
He doesn't sleep in clothes, apparently. I think you all should know that. For science.
Holy shit, look at that. That is a tankard. What do you call that?
He's knackered, so he quickly falls asleep and she goes to bed shortly after, although she ends up waking up in the middle of the night from the sounds of Benedict tossing and turning in his room, and making other sounds from being ill and dreaming. When she goes back into his room and tries to check on him, his sleep-talking results in him demanding that she kiss him. She doesn't do that, but since he's asleep, well, it wouldn't hurt to just admit, for the sake of the audience, that she loves him. Bit early for my liking. I would rather they not do that in that way on the show. Can you imagine if we hit episode 2 and Sophie Baek already says that she loves him? Come on. At least wait until episode 3.
Anticipation.
So she stays up taking care of him because the poor little rich man is sick with a cold. Someone call the newspapers.
I'm shocked. This is shocking news.
While he's still asleep, she sees other trinkets of his, miniatures of his large family, and his sketchbook. And among other things, what's in there? Well, a drawing of her from the night of the masquerade ball, naturally. The face isn't a perfect match, but in his defense, he never got to see the full thing unmasked until now.
It's me!
Benedict wakes up, Sophie gets him some water and assures him that he will feel better in the morning. Chapter 9. Sophie wakes up with a scream because she found herself startled by Mr. and Mrs. Crabtree, the caretakers of my cottage, whom she did not meet the night before because they were off elsewhere staying with their daughter. Sophie is still trying to play housekeeper, though, because of a lifetime of trauma.
Got a lifetime of knowledge.
But Mrs. Crabtree is insistent that she is the housekeeper of my cottage, so she will handle all of those things. She even gets Sophie a cup of tea. Breakfast has already been prepared since the Crabtrees had seen Benedict's horses in the stables this morning, and even though they didn't know that he would have someone with him, Mrs. Crabtree, thankfully, had prepared enough food for the both of them. Benedict tells Mr. Crabtree how this visit was unplanned, and Sophie is someone he picked up from the party he was at. Sophie has been trying to tell them that she's a servant, but Mr. Crabtree says that she doesn't look like a servant.
That's suspicious.
Sophie hurries downstairs to help bring up the breakfast while Mrs. Crabtree notes that she needs to prepare a tonic for Benedict since he's sick because he was exposed to weather.
What are you doing?
The Crabtrees leave them alone, and Benedict recalls how Sophie had taken care of him during the night, and also, he dreamt of the lady in silver. Now, he has not dreamt of her in months, but now, all of a sudden, it's happened again. He has the thought that maybe Sophie reminded him of her, but then he thinks that her hair doesn't match and she's too thin to be the lady in silver. Remember that in the book there's a time jump. 3 years have gone by and life has happened, so Sophie has different characteristics than she did on the night of the ball when she first met Benedict. Mrs. Crabtree comes back with an extra dress of hers for Sophie to wear since she's struggling to stay in Benedict's breeches. She has to hold them up so that they don't fall down. Oh, well, who would want such a thing? Benedict? No.
Nymphoid mania.
Mrs. Crabtree likes Sophie and asks Benedict if they can keep her around, and Benedict is taken aback by the question. Mrs. Crabtree also insists that Sophie needs to eat more once she realizes that Sophie didn't eat at all the day before. Sophie tries to suggest again that she will stay in the servants' quarters, but Mrs. Crabtree refuses because unless Sophie gets officially hired, she's not a servant there. She's a guest. Benedict and Sophie are alone again, so he tells her to eat more food, he thanks her for taking care of him, and then he gets suspicious and asks if he did anything that he should apologize to her for, and Sophie is so startled by the question that Benedict doesn't believe her when she says no. Also, she's started blushing, which he points out. Oh my gosh, are you flirting with her already? But that's not how they meant it. Sure. Okay. And I'm Akasha, the great mother of all vampires. In the midst of all the banter, Benedict notes out loud that Sophie has a rather smart mouth for a servant, and she's apologetic, but he tells her that he means that as a compliment, and that she should not stifle herself on his account. He also tells her that he finds her rather refreshing. Wow, if you like her so much, why don't you just marry her? No, but really though, just get married already. I want to watch the steam shoot out of Book Araminta's ears. Book Araminta, we hate her. Show Araminta, I won't hear a single bad word about her because in this household, we give Katie Leung her well-deserved flowers. She has that Saoirse on Falasteen energy that I love to see in action. Benedict asks Sophie how she's going to spend her day, and Sophie thinks that she will just wait for her clothes to be ready and go and look for jobs in the area. Now, Benedict doesn't like this idea. He already told her that he would find her a job working for his mother.
Oh, no, did this feel creepy? I said, don't make it creepy, guys.
Sophie tries to insist that she will find a job that will allow her to stay in the country, and then Benedict tells her, well, that's fine. She can just work at Aubrey Hall. Sophie can't come up with a good excuse to not work for Benedict's mother, so she starts to get annoyed, and Benedict notices. He tells her that, oh, well, you really shouldn't throw the spoon you have in your hand right now. It's a spoon she's clutching very tightly because she's annoyed with Benedict. And Benedict asks her, whatever could you be thinking to look so adorably ferocious? No, don't tell me. I'm sure it involves my untimely and painful demise. And I will in fact need show Benedict to call Sophie Baek adorably ferocious to her face. I need to watch that in 4K, release it on Criterion. If hardcore Bridgerton viewers need a project to occupy your time, I would never suggest that you track down the names of Netflix executives and pester them relentlessly into releasing their originals onto physical media. Who? Me? Suggest such a thing? No. I'm being perfectly well behaved.
One of the lessons is caveat emptor.
Sophie's on her way out, and Benedict calls out to her to say he knew she wouldn't throw the spoon. So she, without thinking, just reaches out and grabs what's within reaching distance, which is the remaining stump of a candle, and she throws it back at Benedict's head. She's mortified by this and is leaving the room without checking to see whether or not she hit him, but Benedict responds by laughing loudly and shouting to her that she did well. My headcanon is that he was in fact able to duck the candle and not be hit because he's a Bridgerton and he's used to the antics of all of the Bridgerton siblings acting like children, even if a fair few of them are now grown adults. We need this on the show, or something very close to it. I want laughing, I want shenanigans, I want them to make each other laugh repeatedly. I am not here for melodrama. Who wants melodrama in Bridgerton? If I wanted to watch a melodramatic romance in a period piece, I would just rewatch Emily, because what did Emma Mackey do? That. Oh my god. Chapter 10. Benedict continues to recover from his cold at my cottage while enjoying Sophie's company. She also joins in on the caretaking because she feels like that sort of servant role is what she's supposed to do, because that's been her job for many years now. But Benedict isn't interested in her acting like that, so he prefers to talk to her, but also goad her playfully, so he can get a rise out of her, because he likes when she's spitting fire, not when she's being meek and submissive. Now, if I try to give you a play-by-play of the main scene that plays out, it could come across as boring because it's low on plot and high on vibes, or at least that's what it's going for. Long story short, Benedict has an epiphany that he's attracted to Sophie. He likes her, and he wants her, so he, how should we say this, stands at attention, toughens up. The blood is rushing to his head and not the one above his neck. So he's embarrassed and trying to hide this.
I woke this morning with a tumescent glow.
And needs to go for a cold swim outside because it's old-timey England when showers are not a thing. All that hoarded wealth and you don't even have showers. It's not invented yet. I don't care. Don't interrupt me when I'm mocking aristocracy.
Death. Death to the enemies of the people of the Republic.
As I said, I just finished reading the James Connolly reader, so I'm feeling very activated right now.
Sure, I've my gun ready, Kathleen!
That's a knife.
You have to compensate, Kathleen. Times are hard.
Benedict has to politely but awkwardly rush Sophie out of his room so he can go outside and cold plunge his firm predicament out of his system. So Sophie goes and chats a bit with Mrs. Crabtree, who also insists that she is a guest there, not a servant, because Benedict invited her there. Therefore, she need not lift a finger to help with any of the household tasks. Since Sophie is aware of the very odd in-between sort of place she's in right now, of not technically being a servant, but in all likelihood, it's only a matter of time before she will have to work for a living again, she decides to enjoy the free time while she has it by doing what? Going for a walk. Enjoy the sunny day. And hey, Benedict has told her about a nearby pond. Maybe she could dip her feet in if she feels so inclined. But upon arriving there, what should she find but a man swimming without any clothes? And that man's name is Monsieur Capybara. Chapter 11. Sophie knows it's wrong to stay and watch, but also, what's he going to do? Fire her? She doesn't work for him. She doesn't work for anyone at the moment, and she's feeling a bit overcome at the moment. Just let her enjoy the view. They've already got a flirtation going on. As for Benedict, he has this sense that he's being watched, and the feeling is a strange surge of awareness, the likes of which he's only experienced twice before. It's a feeling that lets him know something big is about to happen. The first time this happened in his life, it wasn't fun. It was the day his father died. The second time, the masquerade ball, right before he saw the woman in the silver dress. He stands in the water and looks around, not seeing anyone, but his intuition lets him know what we already know. Sophie's there. He calls out to her and she gasps, tries to scurry off, but he tells her to stay put because if she doesn't, he will have to just come get her. Clothing optional.
Among other things.
Sophie doesn't really have a good, polite excuse for staying and enjoying the show. Benedict has her turn around so that he can put his clothes back on, and once that's settled, she's ready to just go back to my cottage. But this is romance, so of course we need to do hold on a second, something, escalating tension, something. First kiss that's not really a first kiss because Benedict doesn't know that he's already kissed Sophie before. 3 years ago.
It's been 84 years.
We're very light on plot here. It's just a lot of descriptive feelings, passion, nothing too physically NSFW in this chapter, but for comedy, we do get Benedict telling Sophie, he's mumbling into her lips. He says the words, "Oh, Sophie, I've never felt," and Sophie's taken aback because what do you mean you've never felt? You've kissed her before. Is Sophie jealous of herself? Maybe so. Maybe it's comedy. It had better be comedy. I don't want melodrama. I want giggling and whimsy. I would show you a cutaway of an example, but the first one that comes to mind is during an NSFW scene, so I will not be showing that in this video.
Are you guys having sexual intercourse?
Benedict notes out loud how something isn't quite right about Sophie. She speaks too well to be a maid. And again, this is so on brand for posh English people. Posh English people will cast white Australians to do unconvincing British accents for people raised in Yorkshire, but AWA forbid they let a real working class accent just live without being looked down upon. Oh, you speak posh English? Why are you working as a servant? Why? How about mind your own business? That's why.
Stupid. Ignorant like a child.
And when the conversation proceeds further into Sophie pointing out that she can't get hired as a governess because wealthy English women do not want to hire a young, attractive woman for that position, because imagine putting one of those in front of a wealthy Englishman. I shudder to think. I've seen the invitation. I know what happens when the wealthy Englishmen invite you over. You won't see me there. I'm not coming. I'm using my survival instincts.
So many boys. We thought we were done for.
No, just stop.
But Benedict wants to snog some more, and he gets so swept up in his feelings that he says what he wants. For her to come back to London and live with him. He wants her to be his forever. He'll give her anything she wants, and all he wants in return is her.
No?
Chapter 12. I'm going to summarize this chapter quite a bit because these videos are mostly supposed to be a good time, and this chapter isn't all that pleasant because Benedict and Sophie argue over the fact that she doesn't want to be his mistress. She can't do it. She has experienced a traumatic life because her loser birth father and Book Araminta were very cruel to her. Benedict doesn't know all of those details, and also Book Benedict is a lot more aggressive than Show Benedict, so I don't think you really need to hear me explain those details of him not reacting in the best way when Show Benedict, which is the version of Benedict I got invested in the first place, is not like that.
Your heartbeat is fast.
Sorry.
Try to focus.
They already said at the promotional Valentine's Day event that Season 4 is a fairly close adaptation of the love story from the book, but Show Benedict is not as aggressive. Maybe that wasn't the exact verbiage they used, but if you've read this book and you've watched the show thus far, you know that the characterization of that character is different. Show Benedict is nicer, he has a better temperament, and he has a lot more of a sense of humor. By the way, if you would like to watch a reaction compilation of me to the Valentine's Day event, that is something available exclusively on my Patreon. So the only noteworthy details I would present so that you can follow the rest of the book plot of the remaining chapters in upcoming Bridgerton Season 4 videos is that Benedict and Sophie do get a bit more physical. It's more than the kissing they were doing before by just a bit. Benedict and Sophie both admit that they have feelings for one another and they're attracted to each other, but ultimately she is rejecting his offer to be his mistress.
I'm nobody's +1. I'm VIP, bitches.
Bitches, it's just me. One bitch.
Benedict, by modern standards, is being far too controlling, but within this world and this story's time period, part of his controlling reaction of insisting that Sophie cannot just leave is because she has nowhere else to go, she doesn't have a job lined up, and he was the one who rescued her from Philip Cavender, so he's a lot more aware of how dangerous it could be to let her just leave him like that. It's partially his attachment to her and partially those other logistics I just said. I'm not excusing his behavior, I'm merely presenting some of the variables that shape his perspective and behavior in the book. She's wanting to leave my cottage, and he has followed her back there from the lake. She's packing up the very few belongings she has. Benedict notices that Sophie has used the word can't when she said that she can't be his mistress, which would mean something different than just not wanting to, and he correctly deduces that she's illegitimate, and judging by her reaction, he knows that he has just guessed the truth. He thinks that this is good news. It's perfectly fine. He doesn't care if she's illegitimate, and we have seen that Show Benedict has dated people who are not from high society, so we already know that that version of the character would not care about that sort of thing. But Book Sophie asks Benedict, well, what about your wife? And he says he doesn't have a wife. But then she asks if he's ever going to have a wife. And Book Benedict says, well, he has to marry someday. Sophie won't provide any details about her parents, where she grew up, and Benedict pleads with her to stay, but she keeps refusing. So finally he tells her that she can either accept this position in his mother's household, or if she leaves, he's going to report her to the magistrate for stealing from him, and then he will request that she be released back into his custody anyway. So blackmail.
That's gross.
I'm fairly certain I've already said this, but this is really easy to fix for the show. Just have him offer her the job and have her accept it because she needs to find work somewhere and she is attracted to him. You really don't have to overcomplicate this and you don't need to overdramatize it. It doesn't have to be an aggressively coercive threat to get her to come to Aubrey Hall.
As soon as that foot goes in that glass trotter, I'm gone, mate.
And even if he asks her to be his mistress at this point in the show, just have her say no and have him accept that. We saw him be rejected by Madame de la Croix at the beginning of season 2, and he was perfectly polite about that. Show Benedict is not an angry caveman or some naff, outdated, stereotypical archetype from old-fashioned romantic fiction. He's a capybara. He's chill, with good vibes. That's why a certain group of the audience, including me, likes him and looks forward to watching him finally get to have his own love story. If you've made it this far, comment your favorite fictional book you've read this year. Mine is Hamnet. I'm not going to apologize for the emotional wreck I will be when that film adaptation comes out. I already know Jessie Buckley is going to devour that role and probably my soul in the process. If you only watch my channel when I talk about Bridgerton, I will either see you when I present an overview of the next chunk of chapters or to talk about a season 4 trailer. Whichever one of those things happens first, that's likely what it will be.